A very good morning, Team Zimbabwe, and welcome to Africa and Beyond Television Network. And this morning, there is a very important update which you need to take a look upon. So, the Minister of Health raised a very important issue about the entry subjects, that is maths and English. Remember, you must have 5 subjects for you to train as a nurse in the nation of Zimbabwe. And among them, you must have a science subject, you must also have English, maths, and other subjects which are not practicals. And the minister is talking about employing more committed people to this field. Let us hear what he said, then give a commentary later.
Maths is not a requirement in terms of training in the medical field. Let's start with medicine. I'm a medical doctor. The key subject for you to go into medicine is chemistry. So we have retained actually science subject as a key subject to go into nursing. We are actually leaving a lot of people who have got the capacity and capabilities out of the training because of maths. We know very much that maths has not been a subject that has been passed well. So with the policy that our president says, leaving no one and no place behind, we also want to make sure that people should not be disadvantaged by just putting a subject with no relevance to the training. We are still looking into a way of recruiting more people who are committed to nursing, and we are still looking at other issues like is English, passing English with a C, important, because anyone who has passed all these subjects has been taught in English. And if you go to universities outside Zimbabwe, they say English for communication and not English to pass English as if you want to go and do a degree in English. So we will keep on reviewing and make sure that we make accessibility to training in various disciplines affordable and accessible to all citizens of Zimbabwe. I thank you.
So, taking a look onto what the Minister of Health had to say, is very important for us to note that this is a very important development which was announced right here. Because when you take a look on the subject called maths, when I am not going to use the subject in the future, why should I pass it? Why am I compelled to pass mathematics, which I'm not going to use in the future? I'm not going to do any calculations. I'm required to pass, if I'm to study along those lines, I will be required to pass. My O-level qualification is not going to qualify me in all other subjects of maths, which I'm going to study in the future. So it's very important to understand that when I was at school, kune munhu aigona ngopasa building, but that person cannot enroll papolytechnic kuti anoita building. Anonzi ngaende kuvocational training center, but vocational training centers are not more effective than polytechnics. Personally, I'm a former student of a VTC. So from my own experience, the way we were learning at that VTC, just na hanya mukati. The lecturers vavasina hanya nezvavaiita, and I can testify to that. Which means if you take that person from a vocational training center, place him together with somebody from a polytechnic, the person from the polytechnic is more advanced in terms of having more knowledge about the issues, like for example, issues dzekuvaka, bricklaying, plastering, etc. But what concerns me the most is that there are people with no O-level mathematics who are into construction and building houses for these ministers, building very big buildings in across the country. They're involved in all these construction activities, but they don't hold mathematics as a subject. How are you allowing somebody without mathematics to build your house, but you don't allow somebody without mathematics to enter at college to study construction? How do you reach such a conclusion? So that is very important in Zimbabwe. I know a lot of people who fail to understand this, but I will ask, how can somebody from Form 1 up to Form 4 pass agriculture only? How can somebody pass only agriculture from Form 1 to Form 4? Pass fashion and fabrics only from Form 1 to Form 4? And you deny that person a chance to study at any polytechnic? I still can't find it, because polytechnics, there are hands-on courses. For example, kusona. Hakunoda 5 O levels dzei kusona. Kunoda English yekuita sei kusona. Honestly speaking, tell me, machina tiri kutenga hembe dzemachina right now, ndeipi English iri kutaurwa nemachina? The most Chinese vanotosona hembe dzatinopfeka neboots, they don't even know anything about English. They don't even know anything about mathematics. Chikoro chacho ichocho chatiri kutaura vatorina, vanenge vachiziva chaari kuziva kuti inini ndinosona, inini ndinoita ichi, inini ndinoita ichi. This is the reason why we say more competent people are being left out, and incompetent people are being let in simply because they have the ability to memorize. Yes, that is a fact. So I'm not despising education. Education is good, but you have to understand education in all its dimensions. And I agree with the minister right here. He's actually taking the right direction in making sure that he addresses this issue. A nurse who is not going to make any calculation is required to pass an English or to pass mathematics. But is this nurse going to be involved in any mathematics? I doubt. So he is speaking as a medical profession, a qualified medical person. So it means that mathematics is not relevant. And it's a fact. The same applies to a lot of people. You are being limited to get into university, you are being limited to get into a polytechnic simply because you don't have 5 O levels. You know, I would understand this situation if the government was training people with its own funds. I would understand that they need fewer people at universities and colleges. But simply because students are forced to pay for themselves for their tuition, why are you denying people a chance to study any subject of their choice? You go and say, I want to be an architect, and I'm a very good designer. You be denied a chance to be an architect simply because you failed mathematics. Yes, we know that somehow you need to calculate mathematics, but I must be allowed to go and fail mathematics architecture. That is the reason why you are seeing right now, we now have AI. It does everything for you. Very soon, you are going to see that my architects are irrelevant, because personally, ndakatogara panapa, I can command an AI application to assist me with a house plan, and I get that house plan. It's happening at this moment in time, as we are speaking right now. It's happening. So if that is happening, why are these colleges still denying people access to certain courses? So that is problematic. And I believe that this government is going to thoroughly take a look onto this issue of 5 O levels, including maths and English. A lot of people are being left out, not because they don't know what they have to do, but because somebody just brought in a policy to say we must discriminate people who cannot memorize. There are thinkers who can't memorize during an exam, but it doesn't mean that person does not know. Pane zvinhu zvatakadzidza from grade 1 to 7 zvakatitadzisa kuwana nzvimbo pama-A schools because tatisina ma4 units. But zvinhu izvozvozvo, the major question zviri kutibatsirei right now. Some of the people who got 4 units at grade 7 vakapinda pama-A schools iwayo, some of them they even failed to pass 5 O levels, and some people then grabbed an opportunity vakazodzidzawo up to O level vakapasa, even though vaidzidza kuzvikoro zvakadhakwa. Just imagine if they had an opportunity to be on those A schools. So what am I saying? I've been talking about this severally in my videos to say we must shift the selection criteria to a competent-based selection criteria, where if I feel that I need to be a mechanic, I am enrolled for a certain period at a local university. Toenda ku-mechanics kwacho, voona kuti zviri mandiri here zve-mechanics. There are two things. People learn through theory and they get to understand the subject. People learn through practical and they get to understand the subject. I know some guys without even have O level. Vekuti akakugadzirira mota soka, yanetsa motikari chaiyo ku-CMED, yanetsa mota kukroko, zvonzi haiwa iyi mota yanetsa, chimbodanai hove auye. I have seen it happening. Kuti idzi mota dzakuda hove idzi, hove hana kana grade 7, chirungu chacho kutochitaura kunomunetsa. But if he comes, he knows kuti this problem is because of A, B, C, D, and he can fix the problem. Asina chikoro. He simply knows kuti apa panopinda pati yakati, apa pati yakati inopinda. Why dzinofamba, so he can read the diagram and understand zvinhu zvinofamba zvakadai. So I agree with the minister to some extent. I agree with the minister, and I believe that since people are paying for their own fees, we need to have an open enrollment program where people can be enrolled for tertiary education and they can be allowed to showcase their talents, especially on issues where my hands are needed. Personally, I can tell you that I am a bricklayer, I'm a welder, I'm a plasterer, I'm a carpenter myself, I'm a tiler, I can put ceilings, I can do a lot of things for construction. There is nothing you tell me about construction which I can do. I can't do. I can read the plan. I can read the plan myself. But I never attended that school of construction. But I can do all those things. I can do all those things. Why? It's because these are things which I was trained practically, not theoretically, practically. And when I was doing these things practically, I got to know the processes and the procedures of doing these things. And by the time you continue to repeat these things on the ground, you have the knowledge to say, pandaichi. And you end up sometimes reading books about construction, uchitoriko, uchiona, okay, apa tikadai so zvinofamba so, apa tikadai so zvinofamba so, because plan inouya. And sometimes you need to understand something on the plan, something which is critical and very important. You just refer to the textbook. What does the textbook say about A, B, C, D? And you reference everything. We have seen it happening. So this is my honest opinion and my honest view. That is the reason why if you go to countries like South Africa, there is somebody who doesn't even know anything about construction, but is running a very big construction company. Right here in Zimbabwe, to open a school, you must have a degree or a diploma in education. For what? To open a medical center, you are told you must possess a medical certificate or whatever, unless you are a very prominent person. Why all those things? Yes, I can open a medical facility in yandisiri kuzoshanda inini yandichaemploya qualified doctors and qualified nurses and qualified administrators. Logic must tell our leaders that they are destroying this nation, this beautiful nation. Logic must tell them that they are destroying this country deliberately. But because they don't care, they let it happen. Kusona hembe kunoda 5 levels dzekuita sei. There are areas dzekuti yes, maybe you need background in accounting, but there is a point where I did accounting ndatokura yandisina kumboita pa A level yandisina kumboita pa O level, and I had to do program yandaita accounting courses were introduced to meet katozipasa nema 1-1 and zvikatopfuura zvakadaro. Saka the major question is, what's the fuss? Yekuti kana usitorera chakati haupindi. I believe that the leaders need to adjust. Yes, it's important to have that selection criteria, but we need to be inclusive. We need to make sure that every person is included in terms of obtaining tertiary education. If you decide to have my polytechnics for those with O levels, my other colleges for those with O levels, then you have to establish a VTC which covers all areas. My VTC edu include zvinhu zvakawanda such that people can do courses of their choice. Mumwe munhu anomanikidzwa kuita welding but iye ane chipo chemechanics simply because my VTC has kuoffer izvozvo. We must make sure that we review all those things, and we must also make sure that if somebody passes per VTC akatrade testwa akaonekwa kuti munhu uyu agona ane certificate rake, maybe ane national foundation certificate, munhu iye anofanira kualawiwa kuenda kupolytechnic onoenrolla papolytech otoenda kumberi, kana kuti pauniversity oenrolla otoenda kumberi nedzidzo yake. We must allow that to happen. So this is what I think, and thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much for watching. Please keep on subscribing, commenting, and sharing.